about second chances, and I kind of feel like McLaren deserve a second chance because over the last few years, really ever since I sold my McLaren 540C, I've become increasingly negative about the brand. So much so that last year, Tony and I did a McLaren special episode on our podcast, Behind the Glass, talking all about the issues that we've both kind of experienced with McLaren cars. And in the build up to that episode, and really ever since, I kind of realised that a lot of those issues for me are born out of frustration. I want to love these cars. I want to love the McLaren brand. In fact, I think I still do love the McLaren brand, but it's let me down so many times. My own 540C was kind of plagued with electronic issues, and then when I came to sell it, it lost a ton of money in a relatively short period. On top of that, I just received so many messages from people saying that they've had awful experiences owning McLaren cars. Whenever I've driven one, something's kind of gone wrong, electronic or mechanical, and so I've just always felt let down. But something's happened since that McLaren special episode of the podcast went out. Well, actually, two things have happened. Firstly, a lot of sort of happy McLaren owners got in touch and said, look, we're a little bit sick of the bad press McLaren cars get on social media, because you can't really go longer than a month these days without seeing a Senna burnt down or someone pulling apart the interior of their 720S with great ease. And they're just like, come on, we're out here and we're owning McLarens and we're having a great time. Our cars don't have any issues. We love them and we want some people to know that we're having a great time. And then secondly, and fair play to them, McLaren themselves got in touch. I've always had a good working relationship with McLaren, but it had been a while since we spoke, and they said, look, we listen to the podcast and we get some of those frustrations that you're having, and we feel like we're addressing them because you're not the only person, but we've listened to the feedback and we think we're doing things better. So can we get you in, can we have a chat, and can we work out how to get you excited about this brand once again? Full disclosure, I'm not being paid. This is not a paid promotion. This is not an endorsement. I'm not making money if McLaren end up selling cars off the back of this video, although I wish I was. It's just, well, very brave PR from McLaren, and then also me willing to give them and wanting to give them a second chance, because yes, how cool is it to have an epic British supercar maker? We need them to challenge Ferrari, Porsche, Lamborghini, to fly the Union Jack flag on a racetrack. But also, as an F1 nut and F1 obsessive, McLaren are one of the most historic and iconic teams in that sport, and I should have always dreamed of having a Ferrari and a McLaren in the garage, but these days I don't. So we're going to start again, fresh slate. Let's pretend, instead of the 540C that I bought all those years ago, I've just picked up this as my first McLaren, a 720S Spider. Let's face it, we're all relatively familiar with the 720S, but in my mind, this car's kind of where it started to go a little bit wrong for McLaren. When it launched, I didn't particularly gel with it. I've come to realise that its breadth of capabilities kind of really make it above a lot of its competition, but it's where they kind of started to get a lot of the complaints around build quality. The cars lost a ton of money, they went wrong, people were sending them back, and as I say, the negativity creeped in. But apparently this is one of the areas that McLaren have really addressed. The build quality of a 720S now is supposedly much improved, and that's what I want to find out, because I got the keys to this car for 4 days and I want to pretend like it's the first 4 days of owning this car, because when I picked up my 540C, I'd barely slept the night before I went to collect it. I was so excited to have my first supercar, a McLaren, and an hour and a half down the road, it went bong, 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 ESC fault, return to dealer, and that was a pretty heart-crushing moment, and just the start of things, and I'm hoping there's going to be nothing like that. I'm praying there's going to be nothing like that, and instead, I'm just going to enjoy it, I'm going to love, I'm going to be excited by every second I spend with this car, and you've got to think, that's not going to be hard, because it's nuts! To day 2 with the McLaren 720S Spider. I have to say I was quite excited to get down here to STG HQ today to spend more time with this car. Yesterday was a good day. I actually texted McLaren saying, is this some kind of MSO special? Because it sounds ridiculous. I'm waiting for the reply on that. But yeah, everything just kind of came together. But I do remember having a very similar experience 2 or 3 years ago when McLaren lent me a 720S track pack car to take down to Monaco for the Grand Prix. In the first few days I was like, oh, this is so good, wow, what a car. But then bits of trim started to fall off and I had the racing seats and the actual sort of, material on the seats start to pull away, and that was just kind of the start of a whole load of issues with that car. So it's still early days, but before we crack on with today's plans, I thought I'd just do a bit of a sit rep, check out what's going on, talk to you about some elements that I noticed with the car, and then yes, we'll be heading out and about. I have to say, I'm always a fan of a colourful supercar, but I think colour really suits the 720S, because I've seen so many sort of silver, black, grey cars over the year, but a bright orange one just makes it feel a little bit more special, a little bit more exciting, dare I say it. And in a few days, we're going to talk about sort of what I think the spider element brings to the 720, but I think one thing it might take away from is the overall looks of the car. I just feel like the back's a little bit fussy now and maybe not as clean as it once was, but weird that I'm saying sort of clean, because I think when this car originally launched, we were all sort of flabbergasted by the looks, and it is still a bit Marmite. I think maybe I've got used to the looks, it's more acceptable, these big gaping holes for the headlights and stuff, but I still can't decide whether I think it's really good looking or just a bit fugly. Certain angles make me feel different ways about this car. Well, inside this car, the colour continues. We've got the fully electric comfort seats in here. I think personally I would have chosen the bucket seats because #supercar, but I suppose these are easier and comfier to live with on a day-to-day basis. The controls for McLaren's electric seats are always in a very weird place. They're kind of right under your thigh, next to the central console. Just find them hard to reach and figure out. So a small complaint, but yeah, just really annoys me that. What's quite cool though about this car is that it's obviously a spider, so the roof folds away, but we still have a panoramic glass sunroof, despite the fact that that whole panel folds away. So I think that's quite nice, and it's got that technology in it where if I push this button, it changes colour and becomes shaded, helping boardies like me from getting sunburn through the sunroof, because that does actually happen. But I prefer it when it lets all the light into the cabin. Let's see if that keeps working for the next 4 days. I hope it does. It's a nice feature, especially if the sun comes back out. Now today I'm going to kind of use this car in and around town to do some boring and mundane tasks to see if it can cope with the stresses of boring and mundane tasks. Historically, traditionally, McLarens have always been so comfortable, they can be quiet, it's very easy to manoeuvre, easy to see out, and it's actually something I've kind of struggled with because I feel like it loses a bit of its personality around town. It's so good at sitting in traffic or, I don't know what, just going to the supermarket. I could be in anything. I don't know, I'm in a supercar. I mean, this car's orange, so it reminds me that I'm in something kind of crazy, but maybe it's just a sign that I shouldn't be using a car like this in and around town to do mundane tasks, but why not? If I've just spent, what, 250 grand on a car, I'm going to use it as much as I possibly can. So yes, first off, I'm off to my friend's studio. He's called Alex, goes by Autodegami. He's an incredible artist that does kind of, I guess, automotive-inspired art. And he's arranged a whole lot of stuff to be put into STGHQ, which is so cool. He's not around at the moment, but he sent me his key to his studio so that I can test out the boot or the space of this car, because we've lost a little bit of practicality over the coupe, so I thought it'd be worthwhile seeing how much art I can fit in a 720S Spider. And then we're going to go to the butcher's because, well, yeah, why not? As I say, 2 relatively straightforward tests to see if this car can cope and remain reliable in and around town. Oh my god, look at this! Like a glove! Oh, okay. Artwork collected, roast chicken for the weekend also collected. Ginger pig, by the way, very famous London butcher, very, very good if you can find them. And here comes a parking attendant to tell me that I've parked illegally. I think he's giving me the evil eye. That was a you should leave, because I didn't pay for my parking because I was only 5 minutes. Anyway, boring. So let's get out of here. Let's head off in the car, and I reckon, you know what, it's held up as expected, pretty well. No complaints in and around town. But I'm quite desperate, I have to say, to get out of town again because, yeah, that's where this car, I think, is most impressive. So, tomorrow, if the weather's this good, we'll go and find some nice twisties again. And I'll explain why I think this Spider variant has added to the 720S package. This car, no complaints, no issues to talk about. It's just been fun and exciting and fast. Oh, so fast. I don't feel like I need to kind of review the 720S. I think we all know it's insanely quick and, well, as I reminded myself, also very practical, very usable, very comfortable. I actually think it's closer to a new Turbo S than an F8 Spider. It's one of those cars that you can kind of use in every situation and it just excels in all of them. You know what? This kind of Spider element has helped give this car a little bit more personality, a bit more character, because I can use that rear window, that sort of rear hatch, to let in a bit of sort of noise and the elements without even having to put the roof down. It means that, well, I can always remind myself I'm in a supercar. Because as I kind of mentioned when I was cruising around town, sometimes with these McLarens, well, they lose a sense of what they are, how special they can be, and they become a bit bland. But when you drop that window, put yourself into sport mode and do this, it's pretty electrifying. And when you're just cruising around in town, you can still get some of that noise. You can still get these pops and cracks from this ridiculous exhaust, and that was needed. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the Spider element, and as I say, I've just really enjoyed spending time with this car. So where does that leave me with McLaren in general? You know what, I said it in the podcast, that podcast special a few months ago, that, you know, on their day when everything comes together, McLarens are fantastic. They're sometimes unbeatable. But what this experience has kind of shown me is that maybe that's not the case anymore, because, you know, everything hasn't come together during this experience. It's the middle of winter. I don't think it's gone over 5 degrees Celsius for the 3-4 days that I've had the keys to this car. It's greasy. I've used it in town. I've used it on the motorway. I've put shopping in it. I mean, you know, I just haven't used it for special drives on sunny mountain roads. But every time I've gone in it, and every time I've sort of walked up to it, I'll be like, oh, this is exciting. Whereas previously I walked up to it being like, oh, is this gonna work? So I know I need to spend more time. I know I can't sort of base everything and judge everything on this one experience. And I know cynical people amongst you will be going, well, come on, Sam, it's a press car. You know, they're gonna have made sure that nothing goes wrong. But I'll have you know that the majority of issues I've experienced with McLaren cars in the past have been with press cars or factory cars. I've driven more cars from MTC than customer cars. So it's not a surefire bet that just because McLaren are handing you the keys, it's going to work better than a customer handing you the keys. So, you know, I'm encouraged, but I need to see if all these kind of changes have been implemented on all the other models. And as I said, I'd like to spend like 3, 4, 5 months with this car to really understand if they've taken this big step in the right direction. But boy, does it feel like they have, because I am really enjoying every second I'm spending with this car. And it's so quick. I'm fully aware that quality control is not the only issue that some people have with McLarens. I think a lot of people also don't like the fact that they lose a ton of money. And I'm not going to say, well, I don't care, because I suffered from that with my 540C. But there are a ton of amazing cars from amazing manufacturers that lose a ton of money. Bentley Continental GT, one of my favourite cars at the moment, loses a ton of money. Ferrari, my beloved Ferrari, GTC4 Lusso, loses a ton of money. It happens, and I don't think we can hold that wholly against McLaren. There'll be a number of reasons as to why it happens, but it might just be a case that we just have to suck it up. If you want to own a McLaren, you're going to have to accept that you're probably going to lose a lot of money, like with Aston Martin and a DB11 or a Vantage, for example. In addition to that, I know a lot of people sort of say, well, they all look the same, they all have the same engine, and I'm confused by the lineup. But actually, I think over the years, McLaren's kind of lineup strategy has started to make more sense. At the beginning, it felt like there were just tons of cars coming out everywhere, always replacing each other, superseding each other, and it was like, what's going on? But nowadays, you've got the Ultimate Series for the Sennas or the P1s or the roofless, windscreenless Elva. You've got the Super Series for the 720S, the 765 LT, and then the Sports Series for the upcoming Artura, the all-new hybrid V6 engined sports car, and the GT. So firstly, we're going to see a new engine from McLaren, finally. But secondly, I think it's quite simple. And actually, Ferrari, Porsche, they're all kind of making just as many cars these days. It's really only Lambo that are standing out, making what, 3 models? Huracan, Aventador, Urus? I think I got that right. So, as I say, those things for me aren't as much of a concern as the quality control issues have been over the years. But I am impressed. I'm hopeful. That's what it is. I'm hopeful because even though I'm trying to sort of, wipe a clean slate and start again, and as great as this experience has been, every time I have got in this car, I'm still nervous. I'm reaching for that start button, being like, please start. And every time I hear a knock or crack, I look at the dashboard, waiting for sort of lights to flash up at me. So as much as I'm trying, I can't let go of the past. I'm still haunted by prior experiences. But fingers crossed, this year and moving forward, I get to spend a lot more time around McLarens, and I can see whether these changes have been rolled out across the line, whether these are here to stay, whether moving forward we can have confidence that buying a car as amazing as this, it's gonna work. At which point, we should all be buying cars like this because hashtag British supercar, and how amazingly capable this thing is. Anyway, I hope you guys have found this interesting and insightful. Let me know your thoughts below. Is it time to give McLaren a fresh start? Are you a McLaren owner out there who's had a good experience that you want to sort of celebrate, and you're tired, sick and tired of the negativity? Let me know in the comment section below. Please give this video a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it. It helps other people see the video and see my channel. And make sure you stay subscribed for plenty more videos to come.